Welcome to the Frontline podcast, brought to you in association with the Atla Group. Atla Group is a collaboration of businesses with a collective history of over 130 years, bringing financial solutions to its clients in the world of accountancy, audit, advisory, fiduciary and retirement benefit solutions. Visit atla.im today. On the Frontline podcast, we chat to leaders in business and successful entrepreneurs to bring you their in-depth and bite-sized opinions that will add value to you and your mind.
You mentioned risks in the conversation there. Let's go back to hacks. See, that's, again, I suppose you read mainstream media and that will be a concern for anyone. How do you guys at CoinCorner manage that, the core wallet aspects, and just maybe talk to our listeners about how that ultimately their assets are protected, because that's obviously important for anyone, whether it's in Bitcoin or fiat or whatever.
Of course, yeah. I think just before I get into that side of it, I think one of the things we do encourage is touching on, similar to with the El Salvador side and the Tonga side, is self-custody and self-sovereignty. So it's like you can be your own bank effectively with Bitcoin. So, and I do appreciate, I'm not naive or stupid enough to think that the whole world's going to control and run their own Bitcoin wallet, because people don't want that responsibility. If they've got a couple of $100,000 sat there in their wallet that they've got at home, they might not trust it and want it. So they want to leave it with an exchange like us, which is effectively like leaving your money with a bank. So that will happen naturally, but we do hope over time to encourage more and more people to look after it themselves, so it's not held with a third party like ourselves. Because as you say, there is hacks out there that happen and so on, and people lose money. The way we've handled it, I guess, over the years, we're a small company, obviously, and we've kind of, still a smallish company. We've always we keep generally 99-100% of the client funds effectively off in cold storage, so that can't really be hacked and attacked from a remote perspective. So that's something that most exchanges generally do. And when you're hearing about the hacks of these exchanges, going back sort of 5 years, let's say, historically, they were more like compromising a hot wallet, and the hot wallet is a wallet that's can be any cryptocurrency wallet on an actual web server somewhere, but every exchange needs one of them to be able to send and receive funds for the clients on their behalf. Effectively. And what we found, I think a lot of the exchanges back in 5 years ago plus, they were just holding all of the funds in that wallet, and that's where you saw all these hacks happening for hundreds of millions of dollars. They were doing it in a manner they should not have been doing it, really. They should have had 99% of that in cold storage and just had a float, effectively a small amount that they're happy to take the risk on, for the most part.
You kind of think it's a bit bonkers if you work in business and you have a float, don't you, for petty cash in a business, that wouldn't be a thought process back then. But I guess these are two worlds of, I suppose that's new tech, and maybe new people in that arena are then moving into a sector of business that's well established, that knows how to manage risk, maybe, but also is getting stifled by that, I think, in certain aspects as well, that you'd have thought that would be a thought process, but I guess it's just the evolution of time.
Yeah, I think as well, it was an early industry back then, and some of the people running these companies were guys in the bedrooms. I'm not disrespect to guys, I was a guy in a garage at one point doing that. But I think then it's then how serious the staff and the team take it, I think, a lot of the time. And we saw, I think over the years that generally starts to be cleaned up, and the ones standing today and remaining are generally much better quality, and generally the hacks around the way I'm talking about there, hundreds of millions from a hot wallet, it's rarer now than it used to be, because people are putting proper practices in place and doing things correctly. So that's great. The more so the hacks that you see more recently over the recent years are actually less hot wallet stuff and that side of things. It's more, I think one of the recent ones was actually a Binance, I think, and that was a smart contracts one, I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah, exactly. So the smart contracts now are brand new still technology. There's still things going on. There's bugs, there's glitches that go wrong with them. People are then just exploiting a bug within a smart contract and being able to drain a wallet effectively. So they haven't necessarily compromised the remote server that the wallet's running on, but they've been able to, due to the protocol and the way it's been built, they've been able to manipulate something and create an opportunity there to drain them funds, rightly or wrongly. And then obviously an argument for that is, well, the protocol let me do that, so they've done nothing wrong. And it's kind of like, if the protocol lets you do it, but that's again because these technologies are brand new, and this is all on more the smart contract platform ones and that side, and they are still new and still growing, and they're not battle tested yet as such, and they'll take more years to iron out. So we'll start to see that, I think, fade away as well over the next sort of 5 to 10 years, as we've seen with the hot wallets over the last 5 to 10 years.
So we talk about risk as well. You're regulated on the Isle of Man as a business. Again, I don't know whether you're one of the first in that space to get regulated on the Isle of Man. I know the regulator in the Isle of Man is very pro-digital. You've got its own digital department nowadays. How was that experience? Because you're trying to, I guess, fit a modern business and AML into a more historic way of running things, should we say? Yeah,
an old framework. Almost,
that's a polite way of putting it.
So I think we were trying to race to be first. We're not, just Clara, we're not regulated, so we can't say that.
Wow.
I'm just clarifying that from our perspective. So we are designated business under the Financial Services Authority here. We are actually hoping to be regulated at some point soon, so we would actually be then regulated entity as we are. Back then, we were the first ones. We were the first in kind of UK Europe side. There was one other company, I think it was, then beat us to it by about 2 weeks, and they got regulated under, I think it was Luxembourg, and they did some sort of license there and got that. But then we were effectively second in the world to fall under any formal obligation for. Under a financial regulator, effectively, which was under anti-money laundering side, POCA, Proceeds of Crime Act. That whole experience, I think, was it was a bit of an eye-opener, I think, because still a young entrepreneur at the time and trying to start this business, and then all of a sudden this business has gone from a cool tech fun thing to I've got regulations to deal with and all sorts of things to read up on and understand. And, it's not my area of expertise, but at that point in the business, you just have no choice but you do put all hats on and you do everything. So we all co-founders all did everything effectively, and we did reading regulations, we did dealing with banks, we did understanding tech and the community and even customer support, and you do everything. So the regulation there at that point, the Isle of Man FSA were good. They were pro it. They were, I guess their angle was seeing the e-gaming industry take off for the Isle of Man, and it was a great sector for them. They were looking for a new sector, a new industry. Bitcoin kind of became that initially. It was touched on earlier on about the conference back in 2014. That was great, and the conference was actually a really good conference. But there was a lot of people, but obviously the banking kind of killed it, unfortunately. But what we got in place there was good. We got under the POCA back in 2016, I think that was, 2015-16 time. And eventually the Designated Business Act, was it POCA 2015, Designated Business in 2016? My dates are blurring, but I think around then. So it gave us a little bit of credibility. We hoped originally as well that once we fell under that, we would end up getting more access to banking facilities. The UK at that time, we were still banking in Europe, internationally. Yeah, exactly. And even then, we ended up with a bank in Latvia. And after we got the designated business status, we got inspected and we got a report and so on. We went to this bank in Latvia that we were talking to, trying to get just a normal international bank account. And even these were one of the only ones that would deal with us at the time as well. And even them, they were still being on the designated business, still sketchy, didn't know what to make of us. Eventually, they actually flew over to the Isle of Man to come and inspect us themselves. So they spent 2 days with us, inspecting us just to give us a bank account, which was ridiculous, but it was good. It was great for us because we got the bank account that we needed and so on. Still, UK banks.
They're obviously serious as well, so I guess it's a two-way thing, isn't it?
It was, yeah. It was nice to meet them face to face, and we got a good relationship with them from that point, and still do to this day. So it's good. And UK banking, was just still a nightmare. So it didn't help anything in that respect in terms of UK banking. UK banking really only eased up 2 or 3 years ago-ish when Clearbank and the new clearing bank in the UK came around, and a couple of others now have cropped up. So that's kind of disrupted the banking sector, and we're seeing challenger banks kicking off now, and the clearing banks historically, which were your big 6 or 7s, HSBC, Barclays, Lloyds, all that side, they kind of had a cartel as such, and had control of who could do what. That's kind of breaking up a little bit now.
The stories used to help the cartel, but that's a story for another podcast for another day. Maybe to slightly pivot, because I don't know whether it's necessarily interlinked, and we chatted a bit before we came on air just about censorship and whether, I appreciate it's not a Bitcoin specific question or particularly around the business, but Web3, again, we talk about being part of the general dialogue that's going on at the moment, and censorship. It's certainly something the censorship's got, and that's why I love doing the podcast, because I think people can hopefully talk freely of their views. It doesn't mean they're right or wrong. Mm-hmm. In a world where, again, there's certainly large social media companies that control that. I guess in the banking world it was the case. Is that something you see quite a bit of interaction in the space you're in? And again, I guess provides challenge, especially if there is censorship around content, whether it's negative. Well, I guess a lot of the time it's negative, or just not being able to get it out there even.
Yep. I think our industry is Bitcoin is censorship resistant money, and that's kind of a key fundamental for Bitcoin and what it is. So that the industry as a whole is very pro censorship resistance. So when there is censorship, obviously you do see a lot of kickoff within our industry and the communities. We saw that. We've always seen that heavily on platforms such as Reddit and things like that, and even that's at a smaller level where you have subreddits or sub-communities effectively where you can go on and post things, and there's administrators on there, and the administrators started censoring certain things and people didn't like that, and then they created other subreddits and so on and so on. So we saw it even at a small level. This was like back in 2014, 15 times. Then more recently, I think with media, Twitter is a big place for our industry at the minute, and that's where everyone kind of gathers generally, and all the news kicks off on there. And I think, as we've seen recently, Twitter is, they censored Donald Trump at one point when he was in power as a president. And you can't really, it's wrong, I guess, for the most part. But I think what we touched on pre-recording today was where's the balancing act? There is a balancing act, and where's the line with this? Because you have to censor in some respects, and I appreciate that. But censoring for freedom of speech, I guess, and just saying things that you believe in or you believe are factual, and being censored for that is one thing. And whether it's posting things that are illegal, then okay, fair enough, censor. I think the Web3 direction, actually just on the Twitter thing, I know we've seen that a lot in our industry, people being censored. I've actually been censored a few times now on Twitter because
tweets getting pulled.
Yeah, they get kind of like shadow banned effectively. Effectively you can put a tweet out and people will see it and people interact and you'll get the interaction. Sometimes I know what it is when I put it out, which is one of the articles that we wrote, which was a Bitcoin energy usage article. And when I've put that out, I've had literally no interaction and no views on the tweet, and it's effectively gets shadow banned, so nobody's really seeing it in their timelines. It's getting hidden from people's timelines.
Is that AI doing that?
I assume it's just, because I'm linking to...
outside of obviously the content, but the AI is picking up the content saying, we don't like this type of content.
Yeah, I think it's just an automated algorithm, basically picking it up. So it's a third-party link that I'm linking to, talking about Bitcoin energy usage around the world and that. So it's meant to be a factual piece of information, this, and a research paper we kind of did within CoinCorner. However, their algorithms have assumedly picked it up and said, we can't prove this is factual, so we're going to censor it and hide it. So we have managed to get that out there a little bit more to people. But it is every time I tweet that article, I seem to get censored for about 12 hours. Nobody really seems to see my tweets in their feed, and then it slowly comes back in afterwards. I'm even noticing that on small level.
It's really interesting. I'm sure the algorithms aren't bothered about me, but I put a post on LinkedIn about censorship and asked people to vote, and I got next to no and don't get me wrong, I've got thousands but people interact with me on LinkedIn, and this just got no traction. But it talks about censorship and mentioning large social media platforms, and not saying what's the right word? Wasn't bashing them. It was just, do you feel there's censorship out there? And it got no traction. So
I think it is. I think it'll be key words and key things that they pick up on, their algorithms will catch, and sort of whether they push them for manual review, and then somebody will manual review it and say, let people see it or hide it. I think I actually got caught as well during, I don't know if you remember the Twitter hack back in, coming up to 2 years ago now. And a couple of guys managed to gain access to Twitter, and they started jumping on celebrity profiles and saying, send me Bitcoin and I'll send you some back. And because some people sent Bitcoin into it, we was able to, and it's all public blockchain, so you can see where the transactions are going and what's moving. And I was actually analysing that movement at the time, so I ended up tweeting a little bit of a thing about where it's going, what's happening, and my tweets got removed in the end because I was including information that then the FBI and so on were actually trying to make use of to do things with it. So I couldn't
for your door to be knocked out.
I then couldn't. Yeah, my tweets got removed, and then we found out that if you try to tweet the addresses that were involved in this, what had happened in the hack, you couldn't actually do the tweet because it just kept removing the address, the Bitcoin address for it. So they then censored the Bitcoin addresses themselves and the transaction IDs, and they censored everything. So, yeah.
Do you see a fix for that, for censorship?
There's people working on that. So there's things like Twitter, for example, is there's a couple of people working in our industry that have decentralized Twitter. So they've made it into
like Getter.
There was Getter. There was Nostra, I think, was another one recently, and they're building that on Bitcoin's layer 2 on Lightning, and that's allowing you to, when you make like a Lightning transaction, which is kind of like a Bitcoin transaction, it's making a tweet for you effectively. Let's call it that. So you can put that out there, and anybody can receive it and view it, and you can display that on any website in the world. Could effectively start displaying this information in what would be looking like a Twitter feed. So it starts being, there's no central point to block your tweets effectively. So it's in a decentralized manner. Obviously the downside of that is nobody's going to be able to block anything. You can put anything you want on, and you can put illegal things on, and so on and so on. So I think there's going to be a fine balancing act there, as I touched on before, in terms of how censorship resistant works out. It'll be, I'm sure, different across every country. You can go on, theoretically, you could probably go on dark markets and the darknet and post what you want, and no one's going to censor it. But 99% of the people out there don't ever go on it and don't bother with it. So it's still, even though there's a space there to go and you will never be censored, nobody's really using it and making use of it. So I think the censorship, it's unfortunate, could be here long term.
Do you think this? I don't know whether someone's mentioned to me before around creating the community style where you vote and the community decides whether something's sensitive. So if you post some racial hatred, then obviously people are going to dislike it within a certain period of time. Then it's wiped, and then the community becomes the censored people, and then as a society we kind of weed out. To me, that seems quite a logical approach. Of doing it. I appreciate there's content out there initially, but ultimately if the masses are suppressing it, then we fix our own problems.
Yeah, I think that's kind of similar to how Reddit works, I guess, in some respects, where Reddit is an upvote, downvote system. So the community will vote up for posts they like and things that they think are factual or whatever, and anything that's incorrect or they don't like, obviously they're getting downvoted and they disappear out of the feed, so they disappear. Right. So Reddit's been doing that for 15, 20 years, whatever they've been doing it for. So they are doing that, and they've been doing it, but not necessarily, the post is still, even if everybody, 20,000 people disliked it, it doesn't disappear. It stays there, but it's just down at the bottom of the feed.
The algorithms push it down, right.
Yeah, so I think there is them out there. However, Reddit is still a company, and they have been known to remove things. So there could be a post that 20,000 people have upvoted and everyone loves it, but then Reddit decides to take it down because it's crossing a line of something. So there's still censorship in there in some respect. Coming away from that into a decentralized way, for me, would also need to be decentralized and have that community vote in some way, or some mechanism, like you're saying there, to allow for a form of censorship, but in a group decision making sort of side.
Sorry, I know we've been going, but it's really interesting chat. A few more bits to cover. CoinCorner, carbon neutral. Talk to me a little bit about that, what you're trying to do there.
Yep, that was off the back of the article I keep getting censored for. Because Bitcoin using lots of energy and all this side of things, and don't get me wrong, it uses lots of energy. In my personal opinion, it doesn't use enough energy. That's probably a different controversial topic for a different day. I guess people listen, I'll give a very quick overview of that, of why that is and what happens there. But Bitcoin uses energy for mining. The mining confirms transactions and puts transactions onto the blockchain. Let's keep it simple. The process to do that requires energy and miners and computer hardware. The more mining there is, the more difficult it gets. So more miners come on board. So you basically end up with a snowball effect, and you've got a lot of miners out there now. I think we're at about 1% or just under 1% of the world's electricity usage is Bitcoin mining. And okay, it sounds like a lot. However, we are now at roughly about 60% of that is actually renewable energy. So it's not using coal and all the sort of the bad stuff. It's using renewable energy. So I guess the way I was trying to flip it around on people a lot of the time, the mining as well, the energy usage is the security aspect of it. There's the reason the energy is being used is to prevent an attack on Bitcoin, and it's distributed around the whole world. There's so much energy being used that most countries around the world don't have enough electricity to be able to even attack Bitcoin, even if they had the mining machines. It's not feasible to attack Bitcoin, basically, which means Bitcoin is strong and the foundation of it is strong. I think there's maybe 26 countries, around the world that have the energy capacity, effectively, to theoretically do a 51% attack on Bitcoin. 51% attack is to attack it and take over the blockchain, effectively, and record transactions that are not real. At a high level, techies listening will be like, that's terrible description of it. But the energy usage there, so that means that for me, once we get beyond them countries, then no country in the world could turn around and try and attack Bitcoin in the way to destroy it, effectively. So that's why I'm saying Bitcoin doesn't use enough energy. Once it gets to a point where there's only a handful of countries around the world can attack it, then we're in a position of this is a really genuinely decentralized, censorship resistant piece of technology that can't be disrupted and can't be attacked. So that's why I want more energy used. I want more clean energy. So it's that angle. There's not really any other industries in the world that run on 60% renewable energy. So people,
that gets lost in the story, but I assume
exactly. Yeah. So people it's kind of a don't throw stones if you live in a glass house style. People are attacking Bitcoin for using all this energy, not thinking about what they do in everyday life. And the article came about. The article we wrote, myself and another colleague, was all based around actually taking all stats, all data, all the information we had out there around the world. About how much energy usage Bitcoin uses, how much energy usage we use in everyday life, and we compared it to things like drinking a glass of orange juice. So with Bitcoin and the Lightning networks of Bitcoin payments, for example, you could do 11 transactions for the same energy use as you can, or the same carbon output as you can for one glass of orange juice. So everybody's complaining about Bitcoin being used, yet they're going to the fridge and getting a glass of orange juice every day. And we did all these comparisons around, manufacturing. Tesla was actually a very negative one as well. Tesla, they're electric cars and trying to be all this environmentally friendly, but they're actually very bad for the environment, and they produce more carbon output than most normal cars do over the lifetime as well. Because obviously the lithium battery issue, that the mining and the actual manufacturing of the car. I can't remember the exact numbers and the stats, but the manufacturing of one Tesla car was like hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin transactions, and that's just the manufacturing of it. Obviously, then the electricity the charge for the Tesla car has to come from somewhere, and most of that still is coming from coal powered and sort of not renewable energy. So we're in a scenario where, great, you've created an electric car and it sounds like it's all environmentally friendly, but that battery has to be charged from energy somewhere.
So would your view on what Musk is saying in regard to not accepting Bitcoin, the energy cost, is just your view will be contradicting himself? Completely,
yeah. He what he's doing, he's purposely ignoring certain facts, I guess, looking the other way on certain things. What is going through his head in a lot of the time of what he's doing is absolutely ridiculous. He's just not really. It seems like it's hard because everyone says he's a clever guy and he's built all these companies and so on and so on. And all credit to him, he has, and he's where he is now, richest man in the world, flicking up and down, I think. But he's purposely ignoring actual facts of numbers of things. He accepted Bitcoin payments, then took them off because it was using too much energy. Then there was what came off the back of that was a Bitcoin mining council, which is like a kind of a global conglomerate of mining companies that came together to say, right, well, we'll all provide our data and tell you how much is renewable and how much is not. The benefit of Bitcoin mining around the world, you can go and mine anywhere in the world. You don't have to be like, electricity sources at the minute have to be, say, with London and a big city, you need the electricity and the energy close by, and you need to be able to source it as and when it's needed. Bitcoin mining, you could put in a rainforest somewhere. It doesn't need to be near anyone. It can be literally in the middle of nowhere. As long as there's an energy source, then it works and it's fine. So that's a massive benefit to Bitcoin mining, where you can go and make use of the abundant energy and electricity that we can be generated in places that you wouldn't have towns and cities.
There's an argument. It's driving the thought process around renewables. You mentioned about the volcano earlier.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
I couldn't imagine 10 years ago. I could be wrong, but the thought is let's try and use a volcano to create energy.
Yeah, and you wouldn't build a town under a volcano. But you can go and put a mining setup there, and obviously still health and safety issues and all that side, but you can do that. Iceland with the geothermal energy and that side, there's so much energy out there that is not being utilised, and Bitcoin mining is just utilising that energy. There's so many stats out there that you just look at the stats and you can see it's not a bad thing. There's more energy wasted around the world. There's about 100 times more energy, I can't remember the numbers exactly, 100 times more energy wasted every year because you can't store it than Bitcoin mining uses. So we're talking and complaining, people are complaining about the usage of Bitcoin energy and electricity, but the amount wasted every year because we can't store it in a battery and in some good respects is a ridiculous amount bigger than what the Bitcoin mining is using. And no one complains about that. Why are we not complaining about that? Why are we not complaining about everyone gaming and everyone on the internet and on the devices and everyone driving a car and so on?
Podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. We're complaining about things because...
Well, I think that is. I mean, is that human nature?
I think, human nature a little bit to point fingers at other places, and it's just people jump on the bandwagon for some part of it, I think. And agendas, I think, definitely is a big part of that, and different agendas. I think the big target, and I guess Bitcoin puts a target on its back, is because it's so transparent. Other industries, you can't go and get the energy usage of an industry without going to the companies and gathering all this data and everything. Bitcoin mining is transparent. Everybody can see it. It's dead easy to look at, and it's dead easy to then calculate an estimate of what the energy usage is. There's no other industry out there in the world that you can do that with. So it puts a target on its back because it's so transparent. And yet we're still at 60% renewable, and people are still attacking it. The whole globe is, just for people listening as well, the whole globe is at about, I think, 11% average renewable energy in terms of across everything, yet Bitcoin's at 60%, and we're complaining about that. So it makes no sense.
I'll go back to the comment earlier about the, I guess, frustration at times with the industry you're in, and kind of feel like you're pushing water uphill at times.
Yeah, so bad. Media, again, it's media.
Yeah. Great. Thanks for coming in, Danny. Much appreciated. Really insightful. Hopefully we'll be able to catch up again sometime, because there's about 10 other things on the list I didn't get around to talking about. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you for the time. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everyone.